here today. We have Sonia Arnault, Ivan Kosick, Lucy French, and myself, Margie Smith. Some of the topics we're going to be reviewing today are what are your nonverbals, analyze your nonverbal style, practice your delivery, and manage your nervous system. So what are your nonverbals? Those are how you sound and look to your audience. Nonverbals are your facial expressions. They're your body language. They're your hand gestures. There is no perfect delivery, though, because everybody prefers different delivery styles. So your hand and arm gestures. Those are your arms up here. You want to adapt to your room. You want to adapt to your seating arrangements. If you're in a big room, you can do larger gestures, but try to still keep them between your face and your waist. With your discovering your natural gesturing, ask a friend. Also record yourself. Those are different options to know your natural styles. If you have a really high energy and you notice that, try to bring those down. If you are shy and quiet, try to move a little bit. Try to speak up. And then your body positions, environmental factors, your room, the setting, and your seating arrangements. If you're shaped in like a U shape, for instance, don't stand right in the middle because the people next to you are going to look at the back of your head or the side of you. So make sure you know your seating arrangements as well and your room sizes whenever you're using your body motions and things like that. What you want is a solid, you want an upright posture with purposeful movements. And what I mean when I say purposeful movements, if you're talking and you're balancing something, you can use movements like this, but make sure they're meaningful. Distracting positions, we've seen those. We've seen the hip sit. And the hip sit becomes distracting as you're moving from one hip to the other. It's an informal look as well. You have the sloppy sitting, the slouching if you're sitting in front of your audience. You have the moving around, the jiggling of the keys, the pacing, the bouncing, different things like that. So you want to really take note of your body positions as you're presenting. Again, record yourself. Ask a friend. And then some distracting gestures, if we move back to hand and arm gestures. Some of the distracting gestures that you guys may see is like the commander, or you may see the chili presenter, the one that crosses their hands, the gunshot victim, the one that holds their arm. So these are all different hand and arm gestures that you guys have seen that are also distracting. So you really want to pay attention to those as well. And then eye contact. Eye contact is a mark of honesty and confidence. So you do want to be making eye contact with your audience. Don't stare. Find a friendly face in the audience. Find somebody an executive or somebody that's this presentation is important to, and make eye contact with them. But just make it long enough for a complete thought and then move on. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Lucy to finish up with Analyze Your Verbal Style.
So other points when you're analyzing your non-verbal style to keep in mind are your facial expressions. So the facial expression is what your audience sees, and it counters your message if it's not matching with your message. You want to use conversational expressions. You want to smile when appropriate, so don't smile when you're delivering bad news or negative information to your audience. And then you want to interact with the audience. So you want to find a friendly face and you want to match their expressions too. So if someone is smiling at your message, you want to smile back at them, and you can adjust accordingly from the faces and the expressions that you see in the audience. So other things to keep in mind are your vocal traits. You want to sound natural, and you want to sound interesting, and avoid reading and memorizing. You don't want to sound rehearsed. So one thing you want to keep in mind is your volume. If you have a chance to go to the room that you're going to be presenting in, you could ask a friend to sit in and sit at the back of the room, and you want to make sure that the friend can hear you from the front of the room, and they can give you pointers, whether you're being too loud or not loud enough. And if you don't have a chance to try it out with a friend, you can Whenever you're presenting, you want to present to the person furthest away from you, and that way you want to make sure that your volume is loud enough to reach that person at the end of the room. Another thing is your rate. The rate of your speech is how fast you're speaking. You don't want to be too slow, because that would be dragging out and boring, and you don't want to speak too fast. So you want to pace yourself and rate yourself so it varies just like normal speech. If you speak too fast naturally, you want to slow down. You want to add pauses in your presentation. So you want to take a moment before you jump into the next one. I personally I speak faster when I'm nervous, so I do tend to, so this was helpful because now I know that I need to slow down, finish my words, finish my sentences, and that way I present better. The other thing you want to think about when you're thinking about your rate is cultural differences. I do have an accent, so sometimes when I'm speaking, people don't quite understand me. So I want to slow down, make sure that I'm speaking slow enough so others can understand exactly what I'm saying. Inflection. So you want to avoid a monotone and you want to be expressive and enthusiastic about your topic. And then you want to enunciate or articulate. So that would be, for someone like me, it would be difficult for some people to understand me because of my accent. So I want to speak slowly, I want to enunciate my words, and I want to speak articulately so people can understand me. And with that also, there could be other people in the audience that are not from the same culture, so you want to take that into consideration when you're speaking. And when you enunciate your words, they can understand you better as well. The other thing to avoid are filler words and sounds. I tend to use those a lot myself. So the whatever filler words you could use. So instead of the filler words, you can add a pause. And then you want to listen for advanced filler words too and run-on sentences. This could be so and in between your conversations. And then you also want to avoid meaningless phrases like, to be honest, such and such, or as a matter of fact, just speak. All right, other things to consider when you're giving a presentation is the space that you're using. You want to consider the size of the room and the seating arrangement. You want to consider the height and the distance away from your audience. In formal presentations, most likely you will be on stage and you're further away from your audience. You might have a podium as well, and those are for more formal presentations. For the informal or non-formal presentations, you would most likely be on the same level as your audience, and you'd be a little more, the distance will be reduced as well. Okay, other things you want to consider are the objects in the room. So if you have a podium or a table, you don't want to be standing and hiding behind the podium. You want to be visible to your audience. You want to position yourself in a place where everybody can see your face, not the side of your head or the back of your head. Another thing to be mindful of are visual aids. Visual aids could be helpful, but they could also be a distraction. So if you have a prop that you bring for your presentation, you want to make sure that it's not obstructing your audience from seeing you. The other thing to consider is your dress, your attire. Sometimes you could, depending on the situation and the presentation audience, you want to dress appropriately. So if you're giving a business presentation, you want to be dressed like one notch higher than the people that you're presenting to. And the other thing about how you dress is it gives you credibility. You don't want to come in dressed in sweatpants to give a presentation about, I don't know, interviewing or anything. So you want to be dressed appropriately to deliver your message to your audience. And so with that, I will give it to Ivan.
Okay, I'm going to talk about practicing your delivery. Probably the most important thing is to get comfortable with your content and timing. And then here's some of the ways you can do that. First, prepare limited notes. You don't want to do complete sentences. Instead, use just short phrases. If you use complete sentences, you tend to start reading use short phrases and use those as a reference point. And then that ties into the second point. In order to be able to do that, you need to own your content, which means to basically know what you're talking about. So for example, if you're talking about a hobby, I'm sure most of us could just come up here and talk forever if it's something that we actually like. But with these presentations, most of the time, it's nothing interesting. So it's good to really study your material inside and out. And then also a trick that you can do is explain it to someone that doesn't understand it, and then that sort of forces you to become better at explaining. And then you also want to connect your notes to your slides. So if you're presenting using the screen, there's note pages which links phrases to visuals, and then also there's presenter view. And I think we all know that that's it. The audience would see this, but then you might see the notes on the other side. And then probably the most important thing is to rehearse your presentation. I'm sure on most of our assignments, Professor Swallow puts rehearse, and extra large font with exclamation points. So it must be important. And then also you want to rehearse out loud. Sometimes you might think in your head that it takes you a certain amount of time. So you want to rehearse out loud so you can actually see how long it takes you. And then also rehearse the way you present. So if you're presenting standing up or sitting down, you want to rehearse that as well. And like Dave mentioned, rehearse on site so you can get comfortable with your environment. And make adjustments. So if you see that you're doing something wrong, make those adjustments accordingly. And then also you want to time your rehearsals. Time each section. So then you can also you can learn how to make additional cuts. So if at the beginning of your presentations you go extra long, and when you have a certain amount of time, you need to be able to make cuts to the rest of your presentations. But you want to make sure you still get the important points across and just cut out details. And then also, when it comes to rehearsing with your slides, you want to link what they'll see to what you'll say. Then also anticipate visual distractions. So what slides that can be an issue. Then also practice in the room when you're presenting. And then with tech presentations, you want to practice. Those are usually more interactive, so you want to practice how you'll open, and then decide what you'll say about each page. And then also consider a number of messages that can be, for example, where you're going to sit at the table and things like that. And then also to prepare for online presentations, that can either be online presentation or maybe a meeting online. Become familiar with the equipment. I think most of us are tech savvy these days, but we still want to familiarize yourself with the equipment. Send your slides in advance so that your audience sort of has an idea of what you're going to talk about. And then also learn what the audience will see. And plan to start early and provide clues. And also enhance your voice, because it could be like with maybe the microphone or something could be lagging, so you want to make sure to enunciate your words. Stay connected and also enhance your body language. So you still want to make eye contact even though you're not physically there with that person. And I will pass it on to Sonia.
Awesome. So I'm going to be talking about controlling your nerves, and I'm going to do that in 3 separate ways. It's going to be some general techniques first of all, then it's going to follow with physical techniques, and then we're going to move on to the big bear, the real thing, the mental techniques, how to get over the mind. So with general techniques, the first step you can take is what makes you nervous. Think about what it is that you're nervous. Is it the people? Is it the thought of messing up that's really bothering you? What is it that makes you nervous? And the next thing you want to do is you want to analyze your symptoms. And there are 3 different nervous symptoms that one can have. The first would be visible, which would be any kind of shaking, shimmying around, your hands are shaking, anything like that. The next one is going to be audible. That would be the shaky voices and the stuttering over your words. And the last one is undetectable, which would be the heart palpitations, the sweaty palms, everything like that. Once you're able to figure out what those symptoms are for you personally, you'll be able to better assess how to go about it. And I'm going to go over some techniques for that. And the first thing that could probably help with any of those would be practice. Don't take any shortcuts. Do whatever it takes to get down your message and make sure that you do own that content, as Ivan had said earlier for us. And the next thing that you can do to kind of set yourself apart is recording. See what you look like on film. There are things that you might not notice that you would see once you recorded it that you wouldn't realize you were doing if you had never watched it. The next thing you can do is have somebody else watch you perform as well and request feedback. And when I say feedback, make sure that they know that they're not just going to wreck you. It's constructive criticism as well as positive feedback. You want them to have an even hand with that so you know what to keep and what to get rid of. The next thing we have here is the physical techniques. So the first thing that you can do is you can exercise. You can do some stretching techniques, stuff like that. You can rotate your neck. And one thing that they've actually said is really good is doing push-ups because it's a stress reliever. You can get everything out there you got on your nerves out. So the next thing that you can do is you can do a power pose. As we discussed earlier in the semester with the Amy Cuddy videos from TED Talk, you can do these before, you can do them during, and you can make sure to include your facial expressions. Make sure that you're smiling and you're staying confident in what you are presenting. And the last thing that you can do is voice prep. Make sure that you're practicing. You can even hum ahead of time. Make sure that your voice is, you want to make it nice and even. And the last one is going to be mental techniques. The first thing to get over the mental mind barrier, fake it till you make it. If you think you're the worst in the world, don't let anybody else know that. Just go up here and pretend like you're the best thing that ever stepped into the room until you feel it on the inside too. The next thing that I can say for you is you're your own worst critic. Everybody out here is not judging you as much as you think that they are. You're judging yourself far worse. But when you get in those moments, you have to remember just be objective and think rationally. You want to create a positive self-image for yourself. Visualize yourself at the front of the room, speaking to the crowd already and delivering it flawlessly. That will boost your confidence right there. And the next thing you can do is you can think of past positive experiences that you've had during presentations. You thought you were just going to bomb it, and you got out there and you just did amazing. Think about that and remind yourself that it's not always going to be so bad. The next thing that you can do is picture a calm scene. Create a positive place in your mind and just go there. Close your eyes, visualize a nice calm scene and just get yourself there. The next thing that you can do is just juxtapose the stress, better yet. And what you want to do with that is even if you have to physically imagine the stresses in your hands, set it on the passenger side of your car, and leave it when you step in the door. Just get it out of you. And the last thing that you can do is make a connection with the audience. Maybe possibly you could have a meet and greet ahead of time to get to know them. And even then, so if you don't have the time to do meet and greet, just befriend them mentally. Think, oh, these are great people. They're going to love me. They're already my friend. So those are some techniques that you can use. This is the last slide for us here, and I hope that we were able to give you guys some techniques that will help improve your nonverbal displays and behavior while giving a presentation. So we're going to go ahead and move into the quiz. And I'll read these questions. Number 1 is name distracting body positions or movements discussed during the presentation. Provide 3 responses. Blank and blank are the 2 most important delivery behaviors. Blank, blank, and blank are 3 of the 4 vocal traits that are important while delivering a presentation. Blank, blank, and blank are the 3 types of nervous symptoms. And lastly, what are some ways that you can connect with your audience effectively? Provide 3 responses. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.